Hi, welcome to this week's video. My name is Paul. This week you're going to see me doing some charcoal landscape drawing in a little sketchbook. Now, if you saw, I think it was last week's video, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, you might be thinking this is some deja vu. This is the same video that I've already seen. It's not. It's very, very similar. It's me doing some sketching. It was on the same day I recorded all of this video. It's me doing some sketching in a little sketchbook. But what I'm going to talk about this week is completely different from that last video. That's what I'm trying to say. So this week I want to talk about drawing or painting, if you like, from imagination and memory. Why would you do it? Are there any advantages compared to painting and drawing outdoors, en plein air, as they say, or painting and drawing from photographic references? There are three very different approaches, and you can learn different things from the three different ways of doing it. I think probably a lot of people use photographic references. That's probably number one. Number two is going outdoors and doing it that way. And the third, and the one that people do the least probably, is painting and drawing from imagination and memory. I want to talk about two artists, Gauguin and Van Gogh, Vincent van Gogh. So, you know, Vincent had been in and around Paris in the north of France learning more about art. He decided to move to the south of France. And he wanted, in a way, to set up a sort of artist community, a little commune or something, where artists would come and stay and they would learn from each other and exchange ideas and so on. Didn't really work out, but there was a short, brief period where Gauguin, the artist Gauguin, came and stayed with Vincent. It was pretty disastrous. And the whole thing about Vincent cutting off his ear, or part of his ear, that was probably a direct result of Gauguin coming and staying with Vincent. But anyway, initially there was some exchange of ideas and it was more productive. And one of these ideas that Gauguin tried to persuade Vincent was to use more imagination and memory. Vincent was very influenced by Impressionist artists, at least in the sense that he liked to get outdoors and paint and draw outdoors using direct observation. But as I say, Gauguin was trying to convince him to use more imagination and memory. And so why? Why would you do that? For me, that's the main way that I draw and paint, is from imagination and memory. What are the good points about that compared to the other two approaches? One of the ideas is that it can help with composition. See, if you're outdoors or if you're using photographic references, the first thing that you're bombarded with is details, lots and lots of details. And then you've got to learn how to deal with that. When you're using imagination and memory, you don't have that problem. You've got a vague idea in your head. And some people are very good at getting mental images, some people not so much. But even if you're good at this mental image, you still probably don't have a huge amount of detail. It's a bit fuzzy, it's big shapes, it's not lots of tiny details. So that allows you to focus then on composition and thinking about the big shapes and how do you move them around. The other thing, of course, is if you're using direct observation, whether it's outdoors with the real world or photographs, unless you apply artistic license and start moving things around, you're kind of stuck with what you see. So, you know, the naturalistic approach of drawing what you see does limit your composition to whatever it is that you can see. Whereas when you're using imagination and memory, you have no such constraint. You can just do whatever you want. That's another idea. But it's not the really strong thing. For me, the strongest argument for using imagination and memory is sort of emotional truth. What does the landscape actually mean to you? Memories are very important. They really define each of us. Imagine if you didn't have any memory. If each day you were waking up with a a blank sheet, if you like. You didn't know anybody, you didn't know anything, you were starting out from scratch. It would be a difficult way of existing. Memories and knowledge are kind of vital to living a fuller life. And those memories, they're not just ideas and images in your head, there's emotion attached to those as well. So making art, is it just about observations? Is it just about rendering details of the world, or is there some sort of emotional input, some sort of emotional truth to get at as well? And that's one of the differences. And this sort of synthetist approach that Gauguin was promoting encourages, what is your emotional connection to this landscape, or whatever it is that you're drawing or painting? And that to me is the real strength of using imagination and memory. It forces you to think about, or it encourages you to think about, your connection to the landscape. At the end of the day, they're all just different ways of approaching making art. There's no right or wrong. But for me, this idea of using imagination memory, this sort of synthetism, is a more interesting and more useful way of making art, in my opinion. There's also, if you get into the more philosophical things, there's what do you prioritize making art? Is observation important? Is skill in rendering what you can see important? Or is imagination and creativity more important as an artist? Which things are more important to you? Again, I'm not saying in general which things are more important. Which things are more important to you as the artist? So anyway, imagination memory, I would take Gauguin's point of view and encourage you, if you don't use this approach to making art, have a go. It may work for you, it may not. It didn't work for Vincent van Gogh exactly, although he did have obviously emotional input into his paintings. He preferred at the end to still go out and observe things. But anyway, have a go at it. Try this using just memory and imagination and see what happens. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening. Hopefully see you again in next week's video.